Hi, welcome to Sovereign Space. I'm Raymundo, along here with my co-host, Lindsey Lamb.
Hey, Ray.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Excited about this episode today.
Yeah, me too. I really want to get into energy. I want to talk about energy. Do you have any thoughts or
Yeah,
opinions, ideas about energy?
I do. What is energy? Energy is frequency, it is an experience that we have within our body and around our body. Energy is our focus and attention. Energy is something that we can generate. Energy is one of our greatest superpowers, I believe. And really, this human experience, sometimes I like to think about it as the being part is really just processing energy, whether that is emotion or
Mm.
information. Um, and the frequency, not only within our own being, but the frequency of the things we interact with. What are your thoughts on energy?
Well, I'm curious about if are we energy or do we need energy? Do we make energy? I mean, we all know about, you got to eat your food, you got to eat your 3 square meals a day, you got to get your carbs, you got to get your proteins and you got just a little bit of fat, right? Isn't that energy? Isn't that the energy equation, the food pyramid, eating? But then we take all that food and we go and do stuff, right? I mean, that's kind of the story that we got to eat our meals, and then and only then can we go and work and make things happen, so like the energy of a country or a society or a city, I think you define it on what kind of work it does. What does it produce? What do the people do in that town? Like there's the chemistry energy maybe, or the physics energy, and then there's possibly a conscious energy, a soul energy, where we're all connected and feeling it, but we can't really put words to it that well.
There's also energy behind a collaboration, energy between two people or a group of people to create something, energy that can propel us into a new chapter of our lives, a new version of ourselves. We can take the energy from food and be able to produce more energy for a job, say we're doing, or a creative activity we're creating. We can dispel some energy by moving our body,
Mm.
creating a release of energy through our breath,
Bad energy. Yuck.
sage that out.
Sage that shit out. So, though, are we energy? Are people energy? I mean, nothing happens without people, right? So even if you had all the coal in the world, all the natural gas in the world, it ain't doing nothing by itself, right? So we as living beings do harness, create, make our own energy, allow for energy to happen, conduits of energy. Energy is a big deal, folks. That's why we're talking about it. It's so big, it is so massive that I believe it is the target of a worldwide, ancient, old conspiracy to take it from us, to hijack our energy, to take the energy that we might want to use to make something beautiful or harmonious and use it for something else, to create something bad, to make our lives even more difficult with our own energy. And I call that the energy war, because there is an intentional effort to control us through our energy, to hijack our energy, to siphon it, to make it dirty. And oftentimes we are just asking for it, seeking it out. We do not see the mechanisms of control. We do not see the siphoning of our energy. We just are living our lives one day at a time.
Right. We're born into this world, and we are definitely not born with a handbook, a rule book that says this is how this plane of existence works. No resource or ebook to say, well, you are a generator of energy. And within that generation of energy that you provide as a living being, that can definitely be manipulated, taken advantage of, or used to generate the intention of something else, whether that is a company or that is a government or that is fill in the blank, a relationship with another person or a group of people. And so we're born into this system. We're not given this handbook, but yet we come in with these beautiful, open, trusting hearts.
Mm.
And we know nothing other but to generate something from our breath or life force energy. And we entrust in a system, no matter where you live in the world, to have maybe your best interest at heart because they've been here longer. So they have maybe a better idea of how things work. And to fall in line with a system, well, we use our energy to do that. And you bring up some really good points in that there's a discovery that we have the opportunity to have to discover how we would like to use our energy. Now, there are a lot of trappings, if you will, or you said the word conspiracy, I would call it truth. The truth of knowing that a lot of the energy that we provide and generate throughout our day, a big percentage of that isn't used back for ourselves. Especially if you are working a job for a company, your energy is then used to produce whatever the mission of that company is. We
It's,
could break that down into almost every segment of our lives.
but even the basic transaction of going to work, right? You go and give your energy almost unlimited, whatever they want. You spend your time making things, setting things up, making things beautiful and organized and perfect. And it's not for you or anybody you know. And in compensation in return for doing some awesome creation of whatever, you get a paycheck, right? And you get that paycheck and then they don't even want you to believe it's yours yet. They want to take some stuff out of it first. So even simple as, yeah, the way we take our jobs and do our work and choose to do our work, it matters. Like seeing the big picture to see the big energy flow around the world. Because a lot of us, we get limited at just being happy with something showing up and getting what we want. We have zero concern about how it got there. Like we just want and want and want. But anyway,
Energy also is this bit of a mysterious thing in that, I can see the flesh on my body. I can, I do have vision, so I can see what my physical body looks like. But yet, the generation of energy that I produce, I may end up seeing that in a product that I've created or a project that I've created or going to work and then saying, well, locked in, see that my energy went to that. And then we have this physical body that we can see that we kind of know some things about, or we're kind of taught about them growing up or through the education system. And then there's this greater sense of us called the subtle energy body that we can't see with our eyes, that we barely have been taught anything about. It is a greater percentage of who we are than who we are not. And so energy becomes this mysterious thing that can be easily manipulated because it's not always quantifiable, tangible, physical, seen with the eye thing. Energy is frequency. I opened with that. And frequency we can't see with our eyes most of the time. It's something that we feel within our body. It's something that we process through our being.
we're talking about energy because it's obviously very important, but it is also the football in the game between us and them, between the people and the oppressors. And we are being oppressed. We are being controlled. And it is being done deceptively. It is being done without a declaration of an attack or designating somebody as an enemy. They're just doing it. And it is a war. It is an energy war. They are after our energies. Just as much as they're after our energy, they're after the control of it. They do not want us to control our own energy. They want it to be siphoned for who knows what, but it is something that doesn't serve us. And it's important to see it as an energy war because it is definitely a war. Because war has evolved, war has changed. We often talk about war in terms of military declarations of invading a country in World War One, World War Two, Civil War, Vietnam War, where nations and states attacked each other. And the term war isn't just a battle or just a fight because it is all encompassing. It is an all out brawl where there are no rules, where each side is going to do whatever they want and whatever they can do to win. And we see that on the military battlefield. We kind of understand that we're seeing a conflict going on now. It could break out into a bigger war. But the thing to really start to see is that the war is no longer on the battlefield. It has evolved into something different. And it evolved during a time period that most of us know or call the Cold War. Do you remember the Cold War?
I would like to back up a little bit before we get into that. And I would like to note that there is a using of our energy. You mentioned the word control, and I personally feel much more aligned to there is things that are using our energy that have created systems that have created trappings of from the entertainment industry to schooling to all of these different mechanisms to use the living being's energy. It is difficult to see that because that is how our governments and communities and things are structured and set up to use our energy. And it is a war. And part of the definition of war is to create confusion. And the world that we're living in currently is a great representation of this mass confusion to use, or as you said, control the energy that living beings produce. And so, yeah, let's really get into this example of the Cold War.
So the Cold War, it kind of kicked off right after World War II because, when they defeated Germany, they split Berlin into two halves. There was an east side and a west side. The tension that was created in Berlin between the democratic United States and the Soviet communist USSR, is quite palpable. I guess ideologies. And to avoid another World War II or another actual battle, there began this system of controlling knowledge and creating fake stories and controlling the narrative and getting information. Okay. So it became an entire like CIA war. And in fact, I imagine the CIA and Mossad both were created basically right after World War II, kind of handled this decades long war of tension that at any day the United States and USSR could break out into some actual military battle. And in 89, they tore down the wall in Berlin, Gorbachev and Reagan. And that was supposedly to be the end of the Cold War. Now there were the relations between the United States and Russia weren't quite as hostile. We started to become friends. Right then is when the corporate superpowers really started to kick off, where world trade became more and more popular. But that was still a war. It was a war of deception and lies and control and manipulation and fake stories and fake narratives that lasted. And that is what allowed the corporate governance, the corporate superpower, to rise and really establish their dominance over nations and governments. And so when we talk about an energy war, we're not talking about a battlefield. We're not talking about the military. We're still talking about an attack and an enemy and an attempt to overthrow and control. And so the energy war is the corporate government structure. It is the corporate America, is capitalization. It is the news, the oppression that is absolutely controlling us on what we can do, what we can't do. And so it is that serious. The emotional work we do or buildup we do when we talk about World War II and the big wars is the same thing that's happening to us. In fact, it's worse because we're all involved.
We're all involved. Do you mean the consent that we've given?
No.
Can you break that down a little bit further?
Well, I mean, when you go to a battle, you know who's on whose side. You know what side you're on. You know who you're trying to shoot or whatever, who you're trying to defeat. But we've been placed in a similar battle like that. And instead of guns and tanks and aircraft carriers, it's lies and headlines and fake laws. And no, we never consented to any of it. We didn't agree to go to war. We didn't agree to be attacked or to fight corporate America. We were told we were free and safe and protected. And so, yeah,
Yeah, you can clearly see in that the deception, the manipulation, propaganda, if you will, sold to us living beings. You bringing up the Cold War and just the name of the Cold War makes me also think about, you describe this on a worldwide scale. And sometimes it's difficult for us as living beings to really bring those concepts in and say, well, that doesn't affect me because I didn't live there or I'm not of those people. So it's a little bit further removed. And we look at the concept of Cold War, even in and around our communities, that could mean, yeah, where we seeing deception within our own communities, our own local governments, our own schooling. That's, I think, how, you can take this larger subject and it does affect each and every one of us, whether we lived in that area or were a part of it firsthand or not, that we experience the fallout from that larger scope.
yeah. I mean, it's affecting, yeah, all of us. And I don't talk to anybody that tells me that everything's going great right now, and they're happy with how the government does things. Nobody. And so it's why we're here. It's why we're doing this podcast. It's to talk about this stuff. It's to talk about this situation because it has been a deception. It has not been advertised or been on headlines, but it is happening, and we all know it. And just nobody's talking about it. What I really want to drill down to or bring up on war, just using that word, I don't want to wear it out too much, but it means there's basically no rules. So when they're trying to control us or use us or manipulate us, they're doing it by any means necessary. There is nothing that is off the table. Okay. If they can control us from something, they're going to do it for no other reason than it does control us. It doesn't even have to be profitable. So yeah, I mean, take it serious, folks, because that is the situation. It's not all about people just trying to be rich. It's not all about people trying to be famous or grab attention. It is about controlling what our living souls, what our energy beings actually do, and how we spend our time and what gets created. We can talk about architecture. Architecture's gone to crap over the last 200 years, and yet it's still us people building it. We're still the ones putting it up there. It's our energy that is creating this boring architecture because that's just the way the system is. That's the way it has been put upon us.
Yeah, there's so many different angles of this confusion, deception, or manipulation, or all of the above. And the living being is really taking it from every angle. I'd like to bring up, as I always kind of do, the subject of food. Food has been
Yeah.
this outlet to control from even, pesticides sprayed on our food, packaged food that has no relation to any sort of plant or earth mechanism to
It's got a picture of a vegetable on the front of it, though.
exactly. Yeah, all of these different angles with food and how food, as we mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, is a source to help us generate more energy. And so, what an incredible way if you were on the side of someone who wanted to use and manipulate, well, food would be a great
Totally.
way to enter in those concept ideas, thoughts. And then we have it, or we can see it in another way, which is through our healthcare system, whether that is fighting a dis-ease or even trying to maintain wellness in an environment that is attacking you from every angle.
It's like the word healthcare. There's healthy, there's wellness, healthcare. I mean, to me, like health is like basically means you're not healthy. If caring for your health means that you're just managing, you're just trying to get by, which makes sense on what they would kind of want from us. Just focus on getting by.
And how it's structured a little bit. The healthcare system is
Hmm.
structured. Yeah.
There's more bill collectors than there are doctors.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Other areas that this can be experienced or expressed, and that we kind of deal with. I know that there's a subject that you love, and that is our name, our person.
Legal personhood. Yeah, they got fake versions of us running through the government so they can run their entire government, the entire shtick without people being involved, without us having a say, a way to control it, a way to stick up for ourselves. And yet we all toe the line and even probably find pride in following laws and statutes and rules because we always have and because hey, we were there intimidated, but we probably watched a lot of stories about people being pulled over, what happens, and you get all that stuff downloaded in you first. And when it comes time to do the right thing or stand up, you're just saturated with junk. I mean, the fact that some guy can just kind of tell you to stop driving and pull over on the side of the road just so he can talk to you is crazy. It's kind of nuts when you really put it in the right perspective. But we all do it and we shame each other when they don't do it. Why do we do it? Why do we not change the system? Why do we not push back? There's got to be a reason, I mean, tied to the person, tied to the legal personhood, to the straw man, which was like a 1933 deception, or that was actually a Civil War thing, but is fake money. Is our dang money isn't even real. It doesn't have no equitable value. Only value it has is what you can get with it somewhere else. Like, have you ever borrowed something from somebody?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever damage it? Ever break something that you borrowed from somebody and felt bad?
I'm sure that it's happened. I can't think of that right off the top of my head. Probably don't keep that thought as a keepsake per
Right. But
se, but
you felt like you owed that individual, right?
absolutely.
Why did you feel like you owed that individual?
Well, because I was kind of always taught that when you borrow something, you return it in better condition than you found it,
Right.
which is a little difficult to do depending on what you borrowed. Um,
So when I give you $10, you're going to give me back 11. It's in
I
better,
guess
it's in
according
better
to that,
condition.
that would
It's a
be,
better condition of money.
yeah.
Thanks for watching and listening to Sovereign Space. We'll be right back after this short message.
Have you been feeling called, or are you curious about a detox? Cleansing your system, even restarting your microbiome terrain? Come check out Inner Space is the place, your resource for a gentle restart.
Are you sick of dealing with traffic tickets? Are you sick of paying taxes? Are you sick of getting bullied around by law enforcement and lawyers and judges? Well, there's a way to change that. There's a way to stand up and push back and stand up for your rights. It's not easy. Aguagiero.net is here to help. Check it out. You will find resources to help you get into the private. We are stuck on the emotion of doing the right thing and protecting other people's stuff, not damaging it, returning it if we use it. We are okay with that story, but there is a massive deception there. We receive something, and we got to give it back. We never even ask the question if somebody actually gave us their stuff. Did somebody ever actually lend you that thing? Or do you just have this feeling of having to pay it back because you have it? Like, have you ever, yeah, I mean, did somebody ever leave something at your house, leave something expensive or whatever? It's not yours. Like, you don't even want to have it in your house anymore. You want them to take it back.
Yes.
So when you can change the perspective on what is yours versus not yours, I mean, that's control. That's energy war. Convincing you to intentionally want to spend your energy doing something that you think is a good thing, a right thing, when it's not, when it's actually enslaving you. What else? Are there other ways?
I would say one of the biggest right now, one of the biggest wars is this against each other, other living beings against other living beings, whether that's for what you believe in, what you wear, who you're in love
I can't
with,
believe you voted for that guy. I don't want to be
politics,
I don't want to be your
politics,
friend
politics.
anymore.
That, yeah, there's all of these, there's a lot of intersections to create this idea of me against you. And a lot of times it's human against human or living being against living being that don't even know each other. And that, quite frankly, probably have one common enemy, and that's the control mechanisms or the mechanism that's using our energy. And so, yeah, there you see this division of me versus you, this type of people versus that type of people, um, this belief versus that belief. And I think for the most part, in general, living beings are for living beings to have the best experience that we can have. And I think it's really widespread through the news, through entertainment, through conversation on a mass global scale of this living being versus living being.
Right. I mean, that's like the history story. It's always like us versus us.
Yep.
Heck, our Civil War, right? Neighbor versus neighbor.
Yeah. And it does, in that example of war, it does, well, all of them actually, creates this distraction from our own energy that we would be using our energy against someone else and to even have a conversation or make it a point to dislike people or a group of people or a belief system that someone else has that may or may not even be affecting you whatsoever. And so that is definitely a place where you see this
Yeah.
war.
Yeah. And it's not just like a couple categories, it's all of them. I mean, it's men and women not being kind to each other, not even wanting to be around each other, live with each other anymore, not even do the whole thing. But yeah, even your friendships too. You're just like, you like this, I don't like that. Like, no, man, we got a problem. And even religion, right? I mean, religion is something where we're trying to go to and find the understanding of the world, trying to see why we're here, what's important, what's not important, what are we supposed to be doing with ourselves, and it gets turned into ruthless anger at other people just for their beliefs.
And who's believing the right story
Right.
or the more supreme story or holding their beliefs higher than someone else's. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe there's a religion that is like just out to destroy everything and wants everybody to be in disharmony. So there's that type of religion.
There's also this concept of disease, especially when you talk about, say, something that's incurable, that creates then a war for an individual against your own self. When you've been diagnosed with a disease or an incurable one, then this energy or focus then goes towards that, learning about it, knowing about it, the treatment for it,
Yeah.
the conversation, the story that I'm going to tell everyone in my life about what I'm currently going through. Uh, I personally speak from personal experience on this and had a battle with quote unquote incurable disease for a decade. And it took all my focus and energy. It was an everyday part of my life. And so that is definitely a place where we see this war and then how it can come so intimately into your life and be a battle that you have with your own self on a daily basis.
Yeah. I mean, like your body is yours. What goes inside of it, what happens inside of it, it's only yours. And yet we always go to other people when anything is going on wrong with it. How you're going to take care of yourself, not up to you. There's professionals out there that know how to tell you how to take care of yourself.
Yeah, that know your body than than yourself who's living in it.
Right. But that stuff, it all comes down to story too. Like story is a big manipulator. That is a big agent of control. Whether it's Hollywood and the big glam of show business and popularity and mysteries and drama, things that just captivate us, that truly captivate our attention and ultimately our energy too. And it's like, yeah, it's not just always Hollywood, it's obviously the news. The news is telling a lot of stories, right? They're the ones convincing us that everything's okay or it's just so terrible. Things are going to be awful.
Or even so terrible that we need the guidance
Yeah. Of corporate
and
America.
oversight of, yeah, either corporate America or our government or your employer or these ideas of outsourcing, like you mentioned. And yeah,
Even the government is telling stories.
maybe one of the biggest
Yeah.
storytellers.
I mean, they're either saying, hey, we got everything taken care of. Everything's fine. You guys don't have to worry about anything. We're competent and we got it. Or it's, you guys are going to die in the next year. Millions of you will be wiped out. We may not survive this. But if you guys go and hide in your houses for a couple weeks, we might have a chance to get through this. You ever hear that story?
What story?
Story of the pandemic.
Yeah, I heard about it and then I like lived through it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was holed up in an apartment
Yep.
for a long time. But stories too, like like lies. They're like the Iran war. What's going on right now? Like how much of it is real and story? I couldn't tell you. I mean, if it's all story, I'd probably be like, yeah, probably. I mean, why we're invading Iran for nuclear weapons when we took out all their nuclear weapons last summer? I mean, there's some pretty weird story. And even story of how wonderful and amazing the Trumpster is. Like everything he does, people love it, according to him and his folks, right? Like
I
it's
mean,
just
that is I
cake.
think that belongs in the
No,
comedy section, but yeah.
there is no loss. Nothing was ever a failure. Nothing was ever a mistake. Story, and
Yep.
it moves people or it cripples people. Like it's a real thing. It's the story of a friggin' turn signal or a red turn arrow. You cannot turn your car when there is nobody around for miles if there is a blinking arrow on the sign, and we'll sit there for friggin' days waiting for that green light to allow them to put their foot on the gas pedal and turn the wheel. Like we've accepted that one. Like I'm not, like we like our whole life, like I've always followed the traffic laws until recently. But I remember how important it was. And it's not to improve traffic. It's not to make us get to point A to B safer or faster. It's just a bunch of rules. And we just get accustomed to it. And the story of rules, the American people and their infatuation with rules.
Yeah. We like it. We think we need them. Also, this idea of energy wars. There's so many dimensions of this right now that you can see in so many different facets of our life. You brought up the current World War III that we're in with Iran, and there is an energy war over oil. There's an energy war over water for data centers. There's an energy war over, well, the power grid might come down. All of all of those, right, are energy wars within itself. Water produces energy, oil produces energy. And then
Well, there are, yeah. I mean, the energy war could be two different things. I mean, gas prices and blowing up oil tankers is one kind of energy war, but the one we're talking about here is a little different. The energy war story we hear is part of it, but the bigger picture is an overall oppression of people, of the living, and managing our resources, telling us we need these resources.
yeah, or creating, right, this fact that we can generate energy, and a lot of it is through emotion. And these concepts create fear, shame, scarcity, and our energy gets spent towards feeling shame, feeling fear, or feeling anxious about scarcity. I mean, there might be one level of energy war on the surface, but then there's so many layers below that. And we do live in this world where a lot of times, there's signs and synchronicities, and it's almost as if this broadcast propaganda of a war for oil and water and energy resources is really, or could be, an invitation to seek a deeper meaning towards where is your personal energy being spent, and this idea of the using or controlling of the living being's production of energy.
Yeah, like an audit. It'd be an energy audit. Where are you putting your energy at? Are you doing it consciously? Or there's a story maybe. Maybe it's not consciously, still a story like why you got to do it. Oh, I got to do this so I can do this. I can get the money to do this because I want to do this someday and I want to do this some other day. So right now I got to go do a bunch of stuff I don't want to do. I mean, that's a pretty common story, which is fine. You can still do the same stuff if you just have the awareness, if you can just see it. We all got to work, we all got to eat, we all got our energy. Like we all got to still do the same stuff, but the challenge here, the question is like the awareness, simply seeing it. There's another example is yeah, the saturation of bullshit, like the complete onslaught of nonsense that we get shot at, whether it's social media or commercials or like even sports in a way. and how much of that just consumes us. Like, it's one thing to believe like the story and trust the story or whatever. It's another thing to just go through it, pay attention to it, live the story. Like, how do you have more money at the end of the month? There's a 500 different methods and ways to have more money at the month, that somebody's trying to tell you. How do you feel healthier? Oh, you gotta go work out. You gotta run. You gotta eat the right food. You gotta eat the right supplements. You gotta work out with the right people. You gotta have a trainer. You gotta have the right gym. The clothes you're wearing are important. The shoes you're wearing are important. The gloves you got on your hands are really important. All this stuff, extra stuff. I mean, yeah, what food? Are you eating healthy food? Are you eating organic food? Best food? Is it made with vegetables? Derived from plants? Do you have any other ideas or know of
The
any
only other
ones?
the only other thing that comes into play here is really everything that I think that we've been mentioning also just kind of feels like a war on our inner space, this generating that we can do of energy. And yes, I loved how you put it, doing an audit of your own personal energy. I know I recently have been going through over the last couple weeks an auditing of where I'm spending my energy, specifically in one area, and that'd be social media. Realizing, hey, it might be good for me to put this on a time lock, because it can be very easy to say, get into a social media app, maybe even look for something or maybe posting something, and then boom, something catches your energy and you're swept away into finding out about a show that you didn't even know existed, because it's the algorithms feeding you some information, and my witnessing myself having my energy just swept away. And then all of a sudden, as time is moving faster, I'm recognizing, whoa, where did I just go in that? Even if it's 10 minutes, 5 minutes, that short burst, and I'm not innocent from a longer burst than that, but I even placed a mechanism, a timer on Instagram to say, like, okay, you only get 11 minutes a day. Once you're at that, the app
So
is locked.
instead of social media controlling you, you're controlling social media.
Trying to, I
You
suppose.
put some kind of control mechanism on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And being honest about, I can sit here and have this conversation. We can give concepts and ideas, but I am still a living being who lives within this system, in this world, let's say. And I've chosen to spend my energy as best I can to support my inner space and my being, and be a beacon and a lighthouse for myself and my community. But that doesn't mean that I'm a perfect individual, or that I spend every waking moment best possible way I could spend my energy. And so I do want to be honest here and say that I'm a living being who's going through these same struggles that we're speaking about.
Totally. Yeah. I still watch sports time to time. I eat some candy or non-healthy food from time to time.
Love me some gummy candy. Trying to leave that one out.
And the gummy nerds candy. You see
That I
those?
definitely don't dip into.
Wow, that's scary.
It is a little scary.
So
Their
when I was a kid, I
ingredients.
loved me some nerds.
Okay.
It's a little fact.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. The one more thing I want to hit on with the energy war is our education. Like the structure and yearly system of taking on 4 or 5 classes or whatever, and just that on its own is like not a real support of the living being process. It's a real like change patterns kind of deal, but just having to get a degree. And it's even the word degree is freaking weird. Why do they use the word degree? Like, we know a degree is like in a circle, 360 degrees in a circle, right? And then you go to college and get a degree, 1 degree, and you fit along with everybody else that has their 1 degree. And when you guys put them all together, it's like one big saw blade that just churns through whatever the heck it wants. And it's just a bunch of people focusing on their 1 degree, their little 1 tooth in the saw. Just got to do their work, their thing. And it's fine. It works. It makes sense. Yet, I mean, I remember there was a story about when Israel was dropping bombs on Gaza. Those bombs were made here in Colorado. Or there were pieces of those bombs made here in Colorado. That means there's some family out there, up in here in Colorado where mom and dad, or one of them, went to work and made a bomb, and then came home and watched TV, made dinner for their family, went to bed, told a bedtime story. And their neighbors are like, "Hey, my friend," like and it happened. That's the story of the Nazis was only let people know enough information to do their one thing. They don't need to know the whole story, the whole process. They might get wise to what we're doing. But yeah, like our education, needing to have a degree, wanting that degree so bad in order to get the things that we want and need. You can't have the nice life you want without the degree. And even just the belief in the story of all that. People, there's people out there that just collect degrees. All they do is go out and get more degrees. So what do we do with this? What do we do with this kind of information?
Yeah, it feels a little heavy.
Yeah.
It feels maybe even sometimes like, how do I even divert my path? We brought up a lot of different things that feel or may seem heavy and that definitely impact every sector of our lives. I know on my personal path, as I've had my own discoveries of what I align with as the truth, I remain and have remained, first of all, very grateful for the experience to be alive here. That has been able to propel me into taking maybe each segment as much as I can. I know in my own personal life, to be able to focus on wellness for me because of the quote unquote incurable disease that was laid before me, I had to delete or take out some of those things. So, one thing for me that I took out was TV and streaming, movies, sports, TV shows, all of that has been removed by my choice. Seeing that, and I really don't want to focus on, you brought up to me the other day, how many seasons of, say, The Bachelor have been running for, then I don't need to invest my energy into a couple or a person and the
I heard
contestants.
this season was going to be amazing.
I'm going to miss it, unfortunately. That to not be investing in someone else's story, I'm going to invest in my story. And so for me, with TV and streaming, wasn't a time restriction that I could put on it like Instagram. It was a full getting rid of a TV in my household. And that's been really supportive to allow me to be able to focus on the other areas in my life where I can give those things the energy. And so, maybe it isn't removing a TV from your household. Maybe that feels too much. And that is a way to tune out or veg out at the end of your day. But where are the small parts that you can focus throughout your day to do these energy audits, to see and become aware of where your energy is being spent, to make the conscious decision to either continue spending it in that way, maybe it just needs some refining, or do you pull your attention and energy from a whole segment to be able to divert it to others or another one? Do you have any personal stories of energy audits that you've done for yourself?
Totally. Yeah, I went pretty hardcore once I really kind of thought about it. Like, just kind of in the journey, the spiritual journey, I kind of just came along with like how much of my life is like a waste or like not serving me or harmful to me. And it just kind of hit me, in ways. And like once I really had the understanding, seeing what something was actually doing versus what I thought, it was it was a lot easier of a shift um, to make. But yeah, I went pretty extreme. I kind of cut out a lot of stuff um, for a bit. It wasn't forever. It was just a good amount of time. Like golfing for a long time. Loved to golf. It was my go-to hobby. Whenever I had free time, I was putting, chipping at lunchtime. Just I had time to do stuff. All I wanted to go do was golf, and I just realized that as much as I got enjoyment out of that, I also got a ridiculous amount of frustration and anger and being pissed off a lot. But it was like just serving me. And it's like 4 hours to go play a round of golf. And it was like the only one getting any enjoyment out of it is just me. And half the time I'm kind of mad. And so it's like, this isn't good for my overall, not only just the timeline, but getting mad at myself in the under the story that I'm being an athlete or that I'm having a good time. TV, similar. I still dream a couple things. I used to have the TV on all the I used to always have the TV on in the background. It was on mute, maybe. If I wanted to eat dinner and talk, whatever, the TV was always on, like Sports Center or Golf Channel was always on. But just having that, like anytime you can kind of like zone out or just look at it and just sit. Like I notice it now when I go get my haircut, they got TVs there. But just how quick you're like zoned into this box. Yeah, food, alcohol was a big one. I drank a lot of booze for a long time and never really felt like I was an alcoholic, but I was always partying, didn't have a problem drinking too much. And it was just kind of like that stuff does not serve us anyway. It is not healthy. It is poison, and yet it was a big part of my life for a long time. And so, yeah, and even like, meat. I don't eat a whole lot of meat. I don't meat, it was a perspective change. Like it wasn't really serving me. Like I could tell I kind of see meat eating as like a barbarian's diet. Like it's for combat, it's for aggression, it's for testosterone. And the world doesn't really need a lot of that. And just in my own practice, just a peaceful life. But yeah, this stuff is all real heavy and deep. And we're going to get into more heavy and deep stuff on this show. Like this is what we're about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I would say, just what we talked about and touched on today is to really try to increase your awareness. Just see it. It's a powerful thing just to see it. You don't have to have a solution. You don't have to have a response. You don't have to be ready to fight or do anything, but to see what has actually happened, the totality. And that's why I said, use the word war because it's ruthless. There is no thing they won't freaking try to get to us, to agitate us enough to screw up our energy, really.
Yeah, divert it and use it. Yeah, and I to all of our listeners out there that
And watchers.
and watchers, that the next steps wouldn't be to create another war against all of these systems, would be really to, I would think, to create this awareness of where the energy and time that you spend, where is that going? And bringing it more internally into your inner world. Gosh, if we all did that, that would start to ripple out.
Mm.
That even, you really think about that, and that might end up in some boycotts or, yeah, people observe something and decide, well, I'm no longer going to partake in that or purchase that or eat that. Could really create a domino effect. And um, that kind of helps bring the concept to we can build a new world one person at a time, one living being at a time.
Mm. It is a big effort because it is an important effort. And, the words we use matter. And, we're trying to paint a picture here of like a real battle, a real issue for humanity. Like this is something all of humanity needs to at least put their balls on and consider and think about what's really happening because it is a fight between the light and the dark. It is a battle between peace and happiness and harmony and the exact opposite. You use the word good and evil, tricky words, but we've watched stories about this kind of stuff our whole life. We watched movies about the impossible becoming possible between, against all the odds. We watch some of those stories so they kind of lull us to sleep and say, hey, we don't have to really worry about it. These characters over here have it.
Somebody's going to show up.
Right. But now it's us. So maybe we're going to.
Excited to continue these conversations to bring these things from the dark to the light. And yeah, being a living being here on earth is a vast, large experience. And it definitely is not easy. But with each one of us, we have a little bit more hope, create a little bit more harmony within ourselves, align with truth and justice, and somewhere in there, always finding a way to find more love for one another and for ourselves.
Absolutely. Shine that light.
Thank you for listening and watching Sovereign Space. This is Lindsey Lamb.
This is Raymundo.
I'll catch you next time.
Take care.